Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Fed Up, your no BS nutrition podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Marie, certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist, working with clients since 2014. After swimming up diet culture's bullshit stream for so many years, I am fed the absolute up with how miserable it's making people feel when we are supposed to be getting healthier. This podcast is here to help you gain your sanity back so you can stop yo-yoing once and for all and finally learn how to trust yourself so you can enjoy food again without fear or shame while still getting to your health goals. My aim is to teach you how to detect the BS in not just the food and diet industries, but in all realms of life, because I know that, like me, we are all just a little fed up. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Well, hello there. Thanks for coming on back to part 2 of Nutrition and Hormones, where we'll be talking about what happens after the whole fertility side of things. Let's talk about the perimenopause. And this is the word that we're hearing, but really we've been hearing about perimenopause. We just call it menopause. So when you hear about a woman saying, I'm going through menopause, the period of time that you are going through menopause, you know, the hot flashes, the night sweats, and the weight gain that occurs in your 40s when people say, I'm going through menopause, that is the perimenopause phase. So it can be 5, 10 years, something like that. And then your menopause is actually the day that it has been 12 months since your last cycle, since your last period. So perimenopause, or when you are experiencing the symptoms of menopause, you might also be experiencing irregular periods. That is kind of the hallmark of your entering perimenopause. You're in your mid-40s and you're having a period, every other month, every third month, and then, you're skipping more periods, or your periods are getting really short and then they're getting really long. You might bleed a lot and then bleed like barely any for most of the periods, and then maybe bleed a lot for one of them, and then bleed, another 6 months go by before you bleed again, right? So until you have 12 continuous months of cessation of menstruation, that is your menopause day. After that day, you are now in post-menopause. So what are really the nutritional recommendations for post-menopause women? And I don't want you to think that, again, it changes very differently. It's an overall healthy dietary pattern is going to be true across the lifespan. However, there are some specific nutrients or specific components that we need to consider that happen after a big hormonal shift like menopause. So menopause happens when now you are not producing estrogen anymore, really. And this is why a lot of postmenopausal women will be on like hormone replacement therapy, because when you don't produce estrogen, a lot of other cascading effects occur. And one of those things is bone density. And this is why women postmenopausal are really prone to bone fractures and osteoporosis, which is a weakening of the bones or brittle bones. And it's because estrogen loss all of a sudden means bone loss. And if you're not strength training, you are going to be losing bone at an exponential rate. You are also going to be having more insulin resistance, or metabolic syndrome risk goes up, meaning you're having weight gain, and a lot of other cardiac events happen. And again, it's kind of this like cascading effect that occurs when hormones, our signaling molecules, are no longer signaling, right? And really what we want to do is prevent this loss of metabolic flexibility, the loss of bone, the loss of independence, and the loss or the start of like cognitive decline. A lot of times malnutrition or lower energy availability, meaning someone's not eating when they're elderly, will have symptoms of dementia. And then you start feeding them, and then they have symptoms go into remission because they don't actually have dementia. They were just literally starving. So your brain is the first thing to go to. So as we get older, we don't just want to be thinking about our bone health and our heart health. Of course, those things are important, but we also need to be thinking about our brain health, right? So Eating enough, like I said in part 1, is going to be your best friend. Do not start restricting and dieting, especially in response to compensating for this hormonal shift, because it'll only make things worse. So I want you to focus on regular meals every 3 to 4 hours, just like usual, regular meal pattern. But specifically, these smaller, more frequent meals might be better for GI tolerance, might be better for getting nutrients in, because a lot of times as you get older, our appetite decreases, thirst decreases. You might just not be able to stomach an entire meal like we could put down in our 20s, So eat smaller, more regular meals, right? Eat enough. Make your snacks complete though. Don't just have crackers and cheese and apple and some sausage, right? Have a little bit more than you think, because you might not really feel hungry, but you need to be giving your body the energy. However, if you're experiencing weight gain, we do want to minimize that. And we need to look at what the culprit of that is, right? Have you drastically reduced your activity along with going through menopause, right? But also, are you eating in response to emotions because this is a stressful time? And sometimes our appetite can be a little wonky when, hormones are a little wonky, of course. So a couple of things to really consider though, aside from all of that. Calcium, vitamin D, and strength training, those 3 things are going to be your best friend to protect your bones and your muscle mass. Because again, you're not just losing bones, but your bone mass, but you're losing muscle mass. And we need to preserve that, because that is going to be your biggest tool of independence, as well as longevity, but quality of life. So you can live more years, but we want you to live more years on your own and strong and capable, right? So calcium and vitamin D, making sure that you're probably supplementing with those things, not just trying to get it through diet. But again, we still want diets high in that. High in fiber is still going to help. So protect your heart, your gut, your inflammation. Again, fiber is associated with lower inflammation throughout the whole body, as well as better brain health. And so healthy fats like omega-3s, your fishes, your nuts, your seeds, those are all also going to help lower your cholesterol, which reduce risk of stroke, heart attack, diverticulosis, which is where you get these little pockets in your intestines and they can get really inflamed, which is diverticulitis, and really, really painful. So you want high fiber now, early, start it now. I don't care if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, it's lifelong, but in your 60s and your 50s, you really want to make sure you're maximizing those anti-inflammatory things, because chronic disease and heart attacks and things like that, it's cumulative. So the earlier you start, the better, but it's never too late to start, and you can still slow the progression. You can manage symptoms, and you could do a lot of good damage with, making these small changes to include more fish, lower your saturated fat, which would include your processed meats, bacon, hot dogs, and include more lean cuts like chicken, fish. Choose more plant-based proteins like lentils and tofu. So that type of stuff becomes way more important past 40, right? Because we're running out of time. We don't have youth on our side anymore. Sorry. And protein, by the way, also increases as you get older, especially after 65. So I want you to aim for minimum of 80 grams of protein, if not up to 120. Really, it's 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if I weigh 67 kilograms, I'm going to multiply that by 1.5 if I'm really active. Or if you already have symptoms or signs of muscle wasting, you want to increase that even more. And then you still need carbohydrates, okay? Especially if you are active and your brain loves glucose. It only runs off glucose and ketones in dire desperation. So if you're restricting carbohydrates because you're maybe gaining some weight because we're experiencing some changes here, then you're going to, again, make things worse, and you're not going to be able to fuel the energy that you need for your day, for your workouts, for the activity that's going to also keep you strong and healthy, right? So I want to warn you about, both sides of the spectrum, under eating and overeating, because both, I'm not going to give the same advice to the same, to different people, because I've seen both. people go through menopause or they retire and they gain a bunch of weight, and others will lose a bunch of weight and they are more, at risk of like malnutrition and dying way early, actually, I don't know really what the statistics would be to that. That'd be interesting. If I had like twins and one, say they both turned 70 and one gained 100 pounds and one lost 100 pounds or something like that, right? Where one is now undernourished and malnourished and like we want to get a feeding tube in them, you know what I mean? Versus the person who's heavier, okay, their risk of a heart attack goes up, their risk of a stroke goes up, being in a larger body, sure, we see that population data exist. However, the person in a malnourished body, I am at immediate like red flag, this person could die in a week, right? So in a way, again, I don't know the real statistics about that, but the truth is that the malnourished, the underweight is a much more at like an imminent risk. So both sides of the spectrum, though, we want to minimize risk, regardless of what that looks like for you. And the earlier you start, the better. And if you are experiencing night sweats, hot flashes, the whole menopausal shebang, I want you to know nutritionally, again, eating enough, lowering like spicy food, alcohol, caffeine, that can help with like the gastric reflux and night sweats or hot flashes. I do know a lot of people that like stop drinking caffeine and then their hot flashes literally go away. So things to try, doesn't mean it's necessarily proven factual for 100% of the population, but might work for you. And then again, some studies suggest diets higher in calcium, vitamin D, vitamin K, selenium, magnesium, and beta carotene. Those are our vitamin A and plant foods. So really an anti-inflammatory diet, just like always, high fiber, high protein, the same. But if you're already in your 60s or your 50s and you've already gone through menopause and you've also spent a lifetime dieting, this is a lot of my population of the clientele that I work with is like post 50s and they've spent a lifetime dieting, chronic undereating or chronic weight cycling, which they show weight cycling is more dangerous and more risk increasing than just like staying at a heavier body weight because there's something metabolically damaging about going up and down, up and down, up and down in your weight, especially in like extreme ways, if it's like 50 pounds or more. So I want to encourage you that if this is a period of your life that you are experiencing, we're with you, it's normal, you're not in it alone, and hang on, I believe in you. But I hope this helps to kind of give you some power back, give you some reins that you can experience some symptoms and there's really not much you can do about it. However, if you know that nutritionally that you can kind of support your bones and support your muscle with higher protein, support your inflammation with higher fiber, that is hugely impactful. And then you add in some walking and strength training. It's that personal trainer in me. Sorry, it's going to come out. You need to be doing a weight-bearing resistance training. And that is going to help maintain your bone density. But if you don't have enough protein, if you don't have enough vitamin D, vitamin K, calcium, all of that other stuff, again, you're going to be at more risk of developing bone fractures and other, metabolic issues as well. So I hope this helps and I hope this gives you some insight into the latter part of our lives as women. And yeah, there you go. There's the full hormone health in, 2 episodes. No, this is such a minimal amount of information compared to what's out there. But I want you to simplify it for yourself. I want you to pull back the, complexities of all of the nitty-gritty because we can get really detailed about this. But if you just focus on like getting a lot of plant foods in for your fiber and this, that, and the other, and increasing your protein and including, strength training and eating regular meals throughout the day, like this is good advice for everybody and it'll carry with you throughout the life. So you don't have to like worry about the little, hairs to split. And that should make you feel better about it. There's a lot that you can do. There's a lot we can't, but there's a lot we can. So eat your fish, have some good, peanuts and almonds and things like that, because it does count. So when they talk about superfoods, it's not that you eat one and it just magically, gives you more longevity, but eating more of those types of foods, plant-based foods and nuts and seeds and fish and omega-3s is going to have lasting impact 20, 40 years from now. So Hope this helps. Happy aging. Love you all, and go eat your fiber. Bye. Thanks so much for being here, friends. If you enjoyed this episode, please screenshot and tag me over on Instagram or leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening from. Your support means the world to me and only helps me get the No BS news out to more people. If you're interested in working with me in nutrition or personal training, check out my programs and courses on my website at kaylamariefitness.com and on Instagram at kaylamarie_fit. See you next week.